I call the honourable member for Grayndler.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The key challenge for the economy at the moment is how do you deal with the wind-back that's occurred in the resources sector as a result of the end of the mining boom and the moving from the investment side to the production side in the resources sector. How do you fill that gap? How do you ensure future economic growth? And there are two keys. You can invest in infrastructure and capital, or you can invest in human capital, in people, in skills and education. This budget fails on both accounts. The fact is that this occurs at a time where the latest ABS statistics show that construction activity for the public sector and infrastructure fell by 17.3% if you compare the December 2014 quarter with 1 year earlier, the December 2013 quarter. In the same period, private sector investment fell by some 12.4%. This is a time where government should be investing in infrastructure, and yet this budget last night does exactly the opposite. Infrastructure Partnerships Australia analysis of the budget shows that Commonwealth investment in infrastructure will fall from 1.55% of the budget to 1.47% across the forwards to 2018-19. When you look at the details of the budget, every year there's an infrastructure document formed. For the time I've been in this place, there's always been, every budget, a major infrastructure announcement. In 2013, we produced the Nation Building Infrastructure Budget document that outlined our program for infrastructure. A bit thinner last year, the budget Building Australia's Infrastructure. That didn't work out so well because when people compared the documents, they found that everything in this document in 2014 was from the previous Labor government's budget. Everything. And so they went around the country on their magical infrastructure re-announcement tour, pretending that these were new projects when in fact they were old, sometimes giving them a new name. But when you look at the budget last night, there is a $2 billion cut to infrastructure over the next 2 years. Over the next 2 years compared with their budget last year. Their own budget, 2 years, $2 billion in cuts as a result of that. No funding for public transport projects. No more money for the Pacific Highway, in fact less money for the Pacific Highway. No new money for the Bruce Highway. No attempt to tackle urban congestion in our cities. A vindictive attack on Victorians for having the temerity to vote Labor, where they want to wind back the $3 billion. That wasn't new money in last year's budget. That was taken from the $3 billion cut for the Melbourne Metro, the $500 million cut from the M80, the $69 million cut from managed motorways. They took that away, gave it to East West, which had a cost-benefit analysis of 0.45, 45 cents return for every dollar. And then last night they attack it again, giving Victorians less than 10 cents in every infrastructure dollar that's spent by the Commonwealth. Well, we'll see. We'll see the way that Victorians respond to that activity. The best that they had last night, was a promise of concessional loans for states at a time when interest rates are just 2%. At the same time, they cut Infrastructure Australia funding, you know, the body that was going to be at the core, from $15 million down to $8 million. They've halved it in real terms over the forward estimates, gutting Infrastructure Australia. At the same time, they flagged their maritime policy where they say that they want to better align employment conditions for ships based in Australia with international standards. We know what that means because flags of convenience run on third world wages and third world conditions. That's their vision for Australian shipping. This is a terrible budget for infrastructure,
Order.
not a single new
The honourable
initiative in
member
this
for
budget.
Corangamite.